In our daily lives, we all have ways that help us perform our routines efficiently. For example, we sometimes program reminders into our smartphones, jot down events on a calendar, or draw up checklists. For learners who are a bit less independent, have fewer communication skills, or are sensitive to change, there are other tools that may help them understand routines and navigate through daily activities more easily. In this presentation, you'll discover what a visual schedule is, how to personalize it, and how to help learners take ownership of it so that it leads to greater independence. A visual schedule is a tool used to communicate the steps in a routine or the various tasks to be completed during the day. Usually, a visual schedule consists of a series of images or a list of words arranged in the order in which the day's activities and tasks should be carried out. There are different ways to create a visual schedule depending on the learner's strengths and challenges. Visual schedules have been the subject of many studies, particularly regarding learners with autism spectrum disorder or an intellectual disability. In 2014, Knight, Sartine, and Spriggs prepared an inventory of studies that had been done on this topic. These authors evaluated 16 high-quality studies involving a total of 56 individuals aged 3 to 21 with ASD. All of the studies reviewed demonstrated positive effects for visual schedules in the maintenance and generalization of skills that had already been acquired. So the learners demonstrated the ability to use a skill in different contexts over the long term. Also in independence, or the ability to follow a routine with less help. In addition, learners showed improvement in transitions between activities, the speed with which they started a task, and better task engagement, and reduced occurrences of challenging behavior. While this tool is often associated with learners with ASD, Zimmerman, Ledford, and Barton did some research with preschool learners who did not have this diagnosis but presented behavioral challenges. Their research, published in 2017, also showed positive results among young participants. Visual schedules tend to help reassure learners because they can predict what's going to happen. You may have heard of an independent activity schedule, and it can be easy to confuse this with a visual schedule since both include a series of pictures and are used to promote independence. The main difference is that visual schedules are used to indicate in advance the day's various tasks, activities, and events. Visual schedules primarily support transition. Independent activity schedules are often used as a teaching program. The goal is for the learner to develop the ability to stay on task for a period of time without help from an adult. Therefore, an independent activity schedule usually consists of pictures representing activities the learner already knows how to do. A visual schedule, on the other hand, can include all types of activities that will occur during the day, including tasks being taught. The independent activity schedule can be part of a visual schedule. For example, if the learner has to perform some tasks independently for a period of 10 minutes, a My Tasks pictogram can be added to the schedule to indicate when these activities are to be carried out. Let's take a moment so you can reflect on what you've just heard. Do you think visual schedules are used mainly to help people with autism spectrum disorder with transitions? If you answered that the statement is false, you're correct. This tool can be used as a support for anyone who needs help structuring their day, to become more independent, or to maintain skills, among other things. There are several aspects to be considered when developing a visual schedule. First, let's look at how to choose the appropriate types of images. When preparing a visual schedule, professionals sometimes wonder what types of images they should use. You may already be familiar with the simple pictograms produced with Boardmaker software or other programs. You may have also seen visual schedules developed using photos of the learner's environment. But do you know whether one type of image is more effective than another? In a presentation on this theme, Marlene Breitenbach, a behavior analyst specializing in education, proposed the model you see here on the screen. You see the choice of image type depends on the learner's level of understanding. For example, for a non-reading learner who has trouble interpreting abstract or complex images, it might be preferable to use real objects or photos of objects found in the environment. We advise that you limit superfluous information that can be found in photos to ensure clarity. For example, it would be better to use a photo of the student's lunchbox on a plain white background, rather than a photo of the lunchbox in the locker among all other things such as clothing and backpacks. If the elements in the visual schedule are too complex, too much time may be spent teaching discrimination, and the desired effect may not be achieved. In addition, the level of abstraction should be adapted as the learner progresses. For example, for an adolescent reader, a visual schedule that includes key words rather than childish images would be more discreet, and the learner is more likely to respond positively. Once you've determined the type of image that best suits your learner, the next step is to determine which format to use. There are several options for materials that can be used to prepare a visual schedule. If you and the learner are tech-savvy, tools like smartphones and iPads can be very useful. You can also use printed and laminated images on a Velcro strip that can be displayed on the wall, placed in a binder, or on a board. The choice should be based on factors like the learner's personal preference, context, available resources, and the learner's age and skills. Take the example of Jade, a grade 7 student who is skilled in using phone apps. Jade's educational assistant and her resource teacher helped her set up an app on her phone with photos of all the activities and a label indicating the time of the activities for each day of the week. Jade can refer to this throughout the day, and she can also use the timer on her phone to guide her. Miko, on the other hand, is a kindergarten student, and because he has considerable challenges, he often learns better in a quiet place. Therefore, his team set up a workspace in the classroom with a visual schedule on the wall. The schedule is displayed vertically and includes a to-do strip and a done strip. The pictograms are large enough that he can easily grasp them and move them around. We've discussed that learners should have access to the visual schedule at all times, and the choice of images and format depends on the learner's needs and abilities. But what do we actually display in a visual schedule? For some students, a more general schedule indicating the different subjects is sufficient. These students can refer often to the class schedule if it's posted on the blackboard, for example. Other learners need to see more details, such as times for discussion, desk work, and breaks. If the learner moves frequently from place to place, a smaller, easily transportable personal schedule is preferable. Note that some learners may react negatively to a visual schedule if it is too long. For instance, learners may get discouraged about the amount of work to come, which can lead to behavioral challenges. In this case, smaller portions of the schedule could be presented. Also, the order of activities can be adjusted, and a timer can be used to help learners better understand the length of activities. The schedule can also be used to support positive behavior. For example, if a learner often has a tantrum when it's time to come inside after recess because she sees the work pictogram, it might help to add an image for a brief and preferred activity after recess. Showing and starting with the preferred activity, rather than showing and starting the work task immediately after recess, may help prevent the tantrums. Let's pause so you can check your understanding. Which option best completes this statement? Visual schedules can be A, laminated and displayed using Velcro strips, B, electronic, C, displayed on the blackboard in the classroom, or D, all of the above. If you answered D, you're correct. There are a variety of visual schedule formats to suit everyone's tastes and needs. While research has shown that visual schedules are an effective tool, some researchers remind us of the importance of explicitly teaching how to use them. Simply giving a schedule to a student without showing them how to use it could limit its benefits. Here are a few methods you can choose from to present visual schedules to the people who will be using them. Before you start teaching a learner how to use a visual schedule, it's important for them to be able to match. A learner with matching skills is able to put two similar objects together, match an object with its corresponding image, or associate an activity with a word. Matching skills increase the likelihood that the learner will be able to make the link between the image and the task to be performed. The first teaching method we'll discuss is behavioral skills training, or BST. BST has been proven to be an effective strategy for teaching new skills to people with some understanding of language. As you can see on the screen, there are 5 steps to BST. The advantage of BST is that it doesn't require much time, meaning skills can be taught and practiced quickly, usually in 1 or 2 15 to 30-minute sessions. To use BST effectively, start by giving the learner a brief explanation of what they are expected to do with the tool. This is followed by modeling and practice, usually in the form of role play. During practice, you watch the learner practice using the visual schedule and give immediate feedback. You should provide praise for aspects done correctly and corrective feedback to help the learner improve aspects performed incorrectly. You practice until the learner can use the schedule correctly and fluently. Lastly, you observe the learner using the schedule in real life and repeat the steps of BST as needed until the learner can use the schedule independently across the day. Video modeling is an equally effective method for learners who may have fewer language skills or who are good at imitating. Given how easy it is to access technology, this method is quick to organize and often produces good results. To use video modeling, you simply record a short video showing someone using their visual schedule correctly. The video can include a friend of the learner, an adult, or the learner themselves. You film from the learner's perspective, meaning the video shows only what the learner would see when using their schedule, such as hands manipulating the images. The video should be as short as possible and shown to the learner immediately before they are expected to use their schedule. You continue to present the video model until the learner masters the skill. Another possible use of video modeling is to break down some of the more difficult elements of a routine to help the learner follow the schedule more independently. For learners who may need more assistance, prompting can be used to help them learn to use their visual schedule. You can give them an instruction, such as follow your schedule, and then help them using the appropriate level of prompting. For example, you can guide the learner's hand physically, point to the pictogram the learner needs to move, or give a short verbal cue, like take the image. When using prompting to teach a learner to use their visual schedule, it's important that you gradually decrease the level of assistance you provide so the learner can use the schedule independently. Reinforcement is a strategy that helps encourage desirable behavior and promotes learning. During a behavioral intervention, reinforcement is defined as a consequence that occurs immediately after a behavior and increases the likelihood that the learner will exhibit this behavior again in the future. To help learners stay motivated to use their visual schedule, it's important to provide plenty of reinforcement, particularly at the start of a lesson and when the learner begins to use the tool unassisted. For some learners, frequent praise offered when they use their visual schedule independently is sufficient. For others, small rewards, like tokens that can be exchanged for preferred items, time to play with a favorite toy, or to engage in a fun activity, can be chosen. Regardless of the type of reinforcement, it's important to add social reinforcement, meaning that you pair the token or other reinforcer with praise. When giving praise, be sure to be specific about what the student has done well. For instance, you could say, "Wow, you brought your schedule to class. I love it." For more information about reinforcement, visit the YouTube channel of the Autism Learning Partnership, where you'll find an entire webinar on this topic. Let's check your understanding. Do you think this statement is true or false? Learners don't need to be taught how to use a visual schedule. The answer is false. To promote success, it's preferable to teach learners how to use a visual schedule explicitly, using a personalized method and reinforcement. Once the visual schedule has been created and the learner taught how to use it, it needs to be integrated into the learner's daily life. It's important to ensure that the schedule is easily visible and accessible to the learner during daily routines. Since one of the benefits of a visual schedule is that it promotes independence, adults must resist the temptation to manipulate and manage the schedule for the learner. When the student has learned to use the schedule, the role of the adult shifts to providing reminders when necessary and to congratulate the student when they use their schedule appropriately. The adult can review the schedule with the learner at the start of the day and help the student prepare the schedule, but they shouldn't carry it or otherwise manipulate it when it needs to be used. Making the learner responsible for the schedule helps increase their independence and promotes flexibility with changes in routine. The value of a visual schedule is often underestimated, and when it is used, it's often abandoned too hastily for various reasons. To help ensure the learner's success with the visual schedule, you may want to intersperse preferred activities with more difficult tasks to maintain motivation when the day's schedule is being prepared. If the learner doesn't seem to be mastering use of the schedule, try to resequence the tasks and activities to see if that makes a difference. Motivation can be maintained by first including more master tasks in the routine and then gradually adding tasks that are being taught or that are more difficult. One strategy that helps prevent disruptive behavior is offering choices throughout the day. When learners have the opportunity to choose scheduled activities or the order in which they will be carried out, they're more likely to engage in the tasks. Finally, some learners with ASD have difficulty with changes in routine. A visual schedule can be used to set up small changes to help build flexibility. The learner should be told why there are changes and/or why activities are not available. The fact that the changes are announced in advance in the schedule should help the learner accept the changes more easily than if the changes are unexpected and unannounced. When the student learns to accept small changes in routine, you can work towards helping the student accept larger changes, also using the visual schedule as the tool for doing so. The visual schedule is an easy-to-use tool that can lead to greater independence and flexibility for the learner, particularly when it's personalized. To promote success, teach the student to use the schedule directly and ensure the learner actively uses the schedule across the day. By carefully planning the best type of schedule for the learner and teaching them to use it, you help create a predictable, reassuring environment, which in turn may help motivate the learner to engage in daily activities, all while promoting independence and flexibility. If you want to learn more about using visual schedules with your students, these additional resources are available free of charge. Note that we've included a link to a bank of printable pictograms to help you create a visual schedule with ease.